G'day friends and fans, welcome to Dave Talks After Ukraine War Update for the 20th of April 2026. The war continues and I'll continue to bring my unique coverage. Of course, there have been many critics, mostly those who can't handle the truth. There's nothing worse in this world than a sore loser, particularly one who lies. Or should I say, worse, people who need to be lied to. This is not a Russian map or a Russian source. And there is obviously missing information because when you go to the Ukraine media, it talks about missile and drone strikes which are not on this map, which means most of the time, one or the other parts of Ukraine media and the deep state, which is a real organization, by the way, they name themselves the deep state. They are a voluntary organization that tracks war and various conflicts around the world. They've decided to leave information out because they don't want to help the orcs, which just shows you how immature they are because the Russians are not orcs, they're humans, and they have eyes in the sky. Now, a lot of these markers are old, but there was progress here and here and in here, a little bit in this elbow, and a little bit here and there on the map. In fact, there's a little bit of progress also in Kupiansk. And we go around the map, there's the usual stalemates have been stale for some time and are most likely to end up in dealt with in the final summer offensive. April, May, coming 6 weeks, I suppose. About 4.5 to 5.5 weeks, I would say. Don't quote me on it because, Putin, if too many people can start reporting when he's going to move, he's not going to move. All right, so we have old markers here and there, but there have been progress here, just a little bit of changing to what they call smoothing out the front, where these little pits and nooks and nannies, the Russians are creeping up on Mykolaiv, trench hopping their way forward. It's not, they seem to be settled down here into a quiet. Now, they said there was some progress here today. Looking at the map, it looks like they've just redrawn a little bit here. It doesn't, this always changes, but they haven't been pushed. They were repelled, from Bushstock, but they haven't been pushed all the way back. I don't know where. I'm not going to name the YouTube channels. They do it all the time. You know who they are. They lie to you. They're paid to lie to you. All of Rudny Yar is now under Russian control. The little bits, technically up to here, but any little bit that was remaining, the Russians are cozying up to Slovenia. They're still trying to grind their way through Givnia. Don't know why they haven't set up flanking. They seem to be content with ignoring Vilny for now. They've all but taken Dolmain. Remember when they were way back here and Zelensky says, "We saved Dolmain"? Well, no, you haven't. And it has. The railway junction is under Russian control. Now, for some reason, they haven't ground away here, but they have done some assaults. They've ground away here, grinding away here. They seem to be very stuck again in the railway junction, which, even if you got this one open, then you have to open that one, and the Russians will take this one, and even then, what are you going to do? You can't get a train through here anyway from either side. You've got multiple points, and where they come under attack. Again, this is strategic thinking of simple-minded people who just go, railway important, must tick box. and this is often criticism of Ukraine, is their must-tick box mentality. Now there's a slow molasses like bulging out, but it has bulged out at the sides, but it's butted up to here, it's butted up to here. It's slowly coming up through this way. They just want, sooner or later, is there another road crossing? Yeah, so another crossing. So the two crossings they're holding here, here and here, the Russians have moved up to here and will soon just flow over. Unless, I mean, the Ukrainians cannot be everywhere. Now, an interesting thing to note is this is actually getting to the point of frozen with very little forward momentum. Same here. The southern withdrawal, which was ordered by Putin to preserve manpower, was at the height of winter, and the understandable, it was beyond their, if it's said to believe beyond their goals, or that to preserve the lines, because it was pretty much a land trade. Let the Ukrainians retake this while they withdraw and push them, secure their flanks. Now, again, trade a little bit of land here for land here. And our goal is, again, if you look at it, wait, didn't they have Tel Aviv? No, they were a little bit in, but they've taken more territory since. It's just, there are a couple of sticking points, and they were here and there pointing out. But again, you can get too far ahead of your air defences, which is a big no-no in the Russian army. You have to stick within your air defence zones. You cannot cross. You cannot just go to another trench. You cannot approach another trench. You have to go through proper channels. It is very disciplined for a reason, and that is because both speak pretty much the same language. And Russians have several times tricked Ukrainians out of their trenches. So Ukraine is also very paranoid about someone sneaking up, say, psst, the Russians are coming. Are you Russian? Maybe. Are you Russian? Surprise! I'm Russian. You're Russian. Where's the Ukrainians? Bang! They start shooting each other anyway because they don't trust each other. And, there's been very little friendly fire incidences, but there has been occasions where the Ukrainians have fired on their own troops. And somewhat, they are pushing through here as well. They've made some progress, as you see. It's mostly in open fields. Back to Kharkiv. Whether or not this is the border or what is the new border, no one knows for certain. And I think it's one of these things is the battlefield will decide. The battlefield always decides. Here we have a book 2. Now this is, I know the book 2 normally has 4 missiles. Look again, it has fired before. It does have an empty rack. Okay. Here she comes. See, she has 2 empties. And here we go. See, there's she fully loaded. It's a different, this is a higher, they come in multiple versions, and there she is. This one has carrying just 2 on its back. She has fired before. Now, this is probably 2 launches from the same battery spread out. One fired 2 lots at one target, and another fired 2 lots at another target. Now, the thing is, the 2 missiles from the original Book 2 struck a drone, blowing it to pieces, and hit a HIMARS. And as you see, she's up and going in for the intercept and a physical kill. And this is mostly just to show off the there. See, you have the forward. You have the forward with the two. You have the forward with the four smaller missiles, and the two at the back with the two larger missiles. This is a system. It is not a missile. It is a system of medium to long range missiles. Again, it's made up of S-200, 300, and 400 missile systems. It is part of a network. It is located below the S-200, 300, 400 systems and above the point systems of the Tor and Panzer. So these are specific point systems, right? So Tor, short range. Tor is purely short range. Panzer is short to medium, as you can see. It's got the guns and the missiles. And then you've got the Buk, which is the medium to long range. But again, the S-200, these are all long range, but it has, SA-6, updated SA-11, and the new Buk M3 SA-27 shows you the from the Design Bureau, different designation again. Okay, it's gone through developments and redevelopments and variations. And again, it's all part of a system, right? It's integrated. Basically, it gets its error alerts, and the 200s are on standby so if the medium range don't get it. Now, wait, what about the long range? No, you have short end, you have short range at each end. Then in the middle, you have the medium, and then you have the long range who fire over, right? So you want as much coverage like that, arcing. So when the missiles come up over in your border, they can be intercepted as they rise, where they're most vulnerable. Most easy to spot with radar as well. So you don't want your long range too far forward or too far back. So you want the mediums to be able to take care of the immediate part of the interceptions of immediate threat, but also a fallback for anything that gets past. But you also have the long range to go, well, if it's big, we want a big response as well. So they could detect up to 85 kilometers, and aircraft even further, from the lowest possible to the highest possible. Now, these are not Timu, okay? These are not the Chinese garbage, but China has, you'll see, these are copied by China. And Chinese systems, for whatever reason, are weaker than the Russian system. As I said, you can see the two little hooks where these missiles would be. Now, Ukraine has its own gun systems. These Toyota pickups, brought out of Poland, straight off the dealer's yacht, driven down the road, a rack ready fitted to them in a factory, and driven into Ukraine where the guns are put on the back. Some of these, what you hear every day, right, when you hear about vehicles being struck, the reason why they're firing and appearing to be so desperate is because those drones are coming straight at them. Most of the targets of drones are air defenses because it wears down the Ukrainian economy. And if the initial wave of air defenses goes down, then the second and third wave of drones and missiles get through. Now, Ukrainian forces said initially 142. Let's see what they say here. Oh, here we go. That's yesterday, see? Unreliable. Unreliable, I tell you. Unprofessional. 113 and ongoing. Down. But some of these are jet powered, and now they've hit Microwave, and allegedly houses and cars were damaged. Now, the fire has spread from a drone impact. Reported no casualties. It's like a slow motion car wreck. You hear the drone coming in, people come out and see it. They come see it coming down. Now, it's still buzzing away, but it appeared to lose direction. But they don't have footage online anymore. I'm not gonna, but yeah, it doesn't. It did appear. Whoops. Left this video running. Let it run out. All right, so yeah. Here we go. Oh, all spam. God, these pages are so full of spam. Now, you can get videos sometimes of these from Ukrainian Telegram, but most of them, I swear, are AI generated or out of date. Now, as you can see, they're just with it. These cars are parked probably 3 to 4 kilometers apart across the front line. So, about 2,000 to 3,000 cars a day go out, and half a dozen don't come back. It's pretty good odds, especially if the drones come at you. You have time, unlike a missile. A missile, by the time you see it, it's like hallelujah. A drone is like watching a car come at you. You can get out of its way. It's soldiers have written on blogs about how bizarre it is. It is like watching a truck fall out of the sky. They initially appear big, and then when you're standing over it, it's like this big. I don't know if it's the parallax or just the fear in your mind that exaggerates the size, or just, the initial image in your head that it's a big, thick object. Trust me, your brain can play a lot of tricks on you. But about 8 of these take down a tank, about 4 take down your average truck, 2 take out your average vehicle, 1 will ruin your life forever. So, again, most of the time they are killing vehicles with them because of cost, right? Cost of a drone, $400. Cost of a car, well, what's your average Toyota pickup? Divide that by about 2, because Ukraine will get a mates rates from Poland, and Toyota could just go crank, because they're going to crank out more than 6 a day. Right? They're going to crank out a lot of these per day. Russia's going to crank out a lot of drones per day, but not so many missiles. So, yeah. I mean, sure. Plus, they're being cut off from Iran. Now, the worst part is, for Russia, is being cut off from China. And that is starting to squeeze Russia. Russia's been squeezed now by US sanctions, European sanctions, and a collapsing Chinese economy. I do not think when Putin planned this war, he expected China to collapse. He expected to be able to spread out over a wide area, around 140,000 factories. Now, he's allegedly production. Let's see. Russian industrial 26. Fell by 0.9%. Russian production fell for the 4th month in a row. Now, this is not because of Ukrainian drones. Despite what Ukraine is telling you, I am telling you, the problem is 40,000 Chinese went home and have not returned. They cannot get Chinese workers to cross the border. Xi will not let them. No explanation. The winter was particularly harsh in some areas. Now, payments were delayed because Russia could not use traditional banking or even Russian banks because they'd put the money in the Russian banks, but it'd still be sanctioned. Russia couldn't move it out of Russia. China had to buy goods in China, take them to Russia, and Russia had to buy goods in Russia and take them to China. Now, this was working out pretty well until the wild price fluctuations of oil and as China's oil facilities were running dry, they wanted a further discount from Russia, which would put downward pressure on China's oil. But Russia can't match the price of Venezuelan oil. And Venezuela was bankrupt because of its low price. China was squeezing Russia. And a lot of rumors say that the 6.8 and other failed experiments were a result of pressure from China and Chinese arms manufacturers have also gone back to 7.62s. And again, the reliability of cordite and the amount of wet ammunition or soapy ammunition has been high, meaning that either resulting in low velocity or failed and jamming. A lot of the AK-22s that were meant to be exported are now repurposed AK-97s, rebarreled, right? So a lot of the guns that China was supposed to, more and more Russia is finding itself having to retool and readjust because Chinese have pulled out of the Russian car market, leaving a lot of factories without workers. Remember, Russia, with a population of 142 million, is supposed to be a big threat to Europe's 542 million, including Ukraine and peripheral countries. That probably takes it around to 600 million. They have plus another 340 from America. That is how many times the production value of Russia alone, with India and China contributing not much whatsoever to this war. Ukraine is sitting pretty in that they have had, let's see, a build-up of around 11 years. Right? They've been planning this war since 2014, allegedly. They gave a diplomatic ultimatum in 2021 where Russia was supposed to guarantee that they would never join the alliance. Western forces would fully withdraw. And these were rejected by both US and NATO. The whole sticking point was the separatists in Donetsk, in which Ukraine failed to meet its Minsk Accords, and Russia launched a full-scale invasion after Merkel and Hollande memo was intercepted by Russia, indicating that preparations were on the way for a attack. The whole point of Ukraine, they were building up to an attack to back a Ukrainian offensive to retake Crimea and finish off the rebellion in Donbass. So they looked at these memos, and there was a notation that Ukraine is 6 weeks away from resupply issues, and that So Russia said, well, if we engage in a 6-week war, they'll be stuck at resupply stage and will blockade the border. It did not work. Several of Putin's generals were, let's say, less than competent. So there is a lot of moving parts. And again, the Russian offensive campaign backs it up. That there is a fortress belt in Donetsk, particularly Svarsk area. Now they've actually edited this document. It's changed. That they said under construction since 2014. Right? The Russians watched as the Ukrainians built a series of bunkers on its border, a series of drone and missile sites on its border. They watched as Ukraine doubled its artillery in less than 12 months, that they built up 18 to 19 mechanized divisions, as they claimed a political crisis and went to Europe cap in hand over and over again. Now, Russian state opinion polls claim that Putin's has had ratings fallen since his peak in March 26. This has always happened. Russians are generally discontent people. They are very happy in general day life, but they are, if you don't do as you promise, of course they're going to grumble. Just like MAGA is grumbling that Trump isn't deporting enough people, or liberals are grumbling about MAGA in general. You know, people are going to grumble. There's a problem with the polls, right? The same people who said, oh, Putin is finished, has said Putin is finished every month now. Why do they get the views? Because that is just what people want to hear. They want their balls licked and told that don't worry, it's not a dog licking peanut butter. It's your girlfriend. Just close your eyes and lean back. So people really are disgusting. They don't want the majority don't want the truth. Now, Russian Security Council lodged a protest with the Europeans about Europeans ignoring Ukraine drone incidences. More than 240 drone incidences were lodged. They were lodged with the back in March 31 attacks alone. Dates, numbers, all the usual things ignored. But it's the same thing. Finland turns a blind eye. They even claim that they openly know they're allowing Ukraine to attack Russia. That's outside of the combat zone. That NATO airspace has been used for UAVs to attack Russia, and it's unacceptable. They've lodged every drone attack from Finland and other NATO countries that have been used under the guise of it was Ukraine. The overflight of Ukrainian drones demonstrates that Ukraine is free to do anything, that they have no limits. And when asked, Finland and the other Baltic states say, we have a right to self-defense. Like, that you are not under attack. You are not defending yourself. You are not defending the Minsk Accords. The Minsk Accords said you have to hold an election. But Russia broke the ceasefire because you failed to meet the deadline on the election. And they gave you 6 weeks to comply. And you laughed and said, you'll never invade. Just because the Liberals expect everyone to be dumb. And to just ignore everything they've done. Like fire on Donetsk 6 weeks before. Or the attack on Odessa, which saw 50 people burned alive for the crime of Russian ethnicity. By the trade union. In Union Hall. A crime against humanity. People being murdered for their ethnicity. Now, Slovakia vowed to continue the anti-EU sanctions. Continue the EU's anti-Russian sanctions until the Druzhba pipeline is restored. Now, we got some news from various sources on that. Now, oh yes, wrong one. Okay, outgoing Prime Minister has said that for now the Hungary stands committed, and the new incoming Prime Minister has yet to comment. He said he's going to review it. But on the review, on the question of resuming, it so far looks like everyone in Hungary at least agrees the pipeline to Hungary has to be reopened. Right? Everyone agrees. No one's made a statement to the contrary from Hungary or Slovakia in the last 2 hours. They may change their mind, but for now, the incoming government of Hungary remains committed to restoring the flow of oil to Ukraine restore the flow of oil. They apparently have got a commitment. Right. Now, the Druzhba pipeline is a major pipeline. It's not small. It's 4,000 kilometers long. Right? It crosses from Central Russia to Central Europe. It is partially open in some places. It will resume transit through Ukraine. Originally it was estimated to be, it shut down in January 26. It was supposed to reopen within 3 months. So it may be another month, maybe a week. Ukraine keeps claiming infrastructure damage, but it has blocked any attempts to inspect the pipeline. Now, the incoming government has indicated they got a commitment that oil will resume at some time. They cannot publicly say. They claim that they have seen a report on the Russian attack that damaged a pumping station inside Ukraine, and repairs have been ongoing and still going on. Political tensions. There is claims that there is no obstruction for political purposes, that oil was not used to blackmail the Hungarian people into voting against Orban. It's claimed that it was organic change at the mind at the last minute because Orban's perceived pro-Russian stance. The pro-Orban rally on the night of the election was massive, even if none of those people had to vote. Right? If Hungary's a small country, so when 1 million people turn out, he should get at least 1 million votes. He should have got way more than that. He didn't. That smells to me like shenanigans, just like in Romania. Regardless, the incoming government has gotten commitments from the EU to assist with repair efforts and technical support, and allegedly exports have been sent to Ukraine to facilitate the resumption of the oil flow. In other words, they're still trying to get the concrete out of the pipe poured in there by the Ukrainians to blackmail Hungary and Slovakia into surrendering to Ukraine, because Ukraine wants that $90 billion so they can go to the bank every week and withdraw large amounts of cash and live like assholes for the next 3 to 6 months until the next load of cash. And then claim it was all lost in the war. It was all lost in the war. We bought Toyota, Russia go boom. He'll show you a bunch of wrecked equipment. And what are you going to do? Right? What are you going to do? You can't keep track of everything in Ukraine. You can't keep track of all the shoulder-launched missiles. Where's the 3,000 javelins that were supposed to stop all the Russian tanks? Right? Why are they sitting in storerooms in Poland still? Oh, we have to protect Poland. So, yep, you've committed to the fact, for a fact, that the Russian army is not going to invade unless you attack them. So the only reason why you'd hold them is because you're going to attack them. And stop saying it's because we can't trust Putin. Because so far, the one who's been showing the most amount of distrust and unlikability, but is winning the internet for the day. Now, the Dubai pipeline is critical. It's 90% of Hungary and Slovakia's energy. Now, they are getting more than they currently need from alternative supply chains, but this has led to inflation in Hungary. Again, blackmail to push the current governments out in order to get the sanctions lifted on Ukraine. Russia has responded to myth again. You could take it up with Slovakia if you don't agree with me. Here's Turkish writing for RT. He claims Ukrainian drones are a myth, that they're made in the EU, that they are predominantly built, designed, and delivered. Now, the newest Ukrainian drones allegedly can fly up to 1,750 kilometers. With tape measure in hand, Zelensky and Ukrainian media have been mapping out targets all across Russia. Now, Russia has moved some of its industry, which they claim is the reason why production's down. Now, you can see there's Ukraine, and this is the target zone for them. So, up to the Urals, here we go. There's Moscow up there, I think. Moscow. A little higher. Maybe. Alright. When Putin entered this war, drones and drone ranges were 50k at best. They were pretty slow, pretty easy to shoot down. Nobody was threatened by anything other than the occasional, oops, we let one through by mistake. You know, weren't paying attention. And someone would lose their life because of a hand grenade. They have gotten bigger and bigger with the IUDs very quickly. Now, the idea wasn't so much to prioritize people as targets. Originally, Russia was using drones to surveil because of all the jamming of their satellites. However, kamikaze drones became a priority, and targeting of people wasn't still mostly equipment. Russia was trying to wear down the Ukrainians, but more and more people are being targeted by these weapons, particularly civilians in border regions, to create terror. And Zelensky said he intends to keep it up because he wants to make Russia feel the pressure. And Europe just blinks and pretends he didn't say that. Now, the Europeans are ramping up their industry. They're claiming it's because America is backing off. And America's saying, why are you scared of Russia? You're 5 times their size, 10 times their economy. You have a better army than them, and you can't beat them with your proxy army in Ukraine, who's mainly made up of Slavs from countries who are dedicated and fanatically anti-Russian, so you shouldn't have a problem. Well, Russia's laid out its where Ukrainian drones are primarily coming from. Southern Poland, through the Lithuanian through the trade corridor, and through the trade corridor. Now, why Italy? Or Turkey? It's the same thing. Most of these countries, France particularly, they want to preserve their domestic industries because they know if they ramp up production and they oversupply 2 weeks down the track or 6 months down the track, they're going to have to cut back and lay off people, and that's very disruptive because it's going to be hard for those people to find a job. Whereas if you have a steady munitions base, it's only when you have an emergency do you hire a lot of people to produce, and then you hire everybody you can get your hands on. But yeah, to maintain stockpiles. But the problem is, and even France is now reluctant because France is losing money, Germany's losing money, England's losing money supporting this war, and Europe wants to go another 90 billion balls deep into Ukraine, and that's just going to break their bank. Brussels has warned, if you could borrow up to 100 billion and 100 billion every month, but that soon adds up to $1 billion, and that billion, 90 billion, that's $1 trillion. So in 3 years, 3 trillion, 3.6 trillion, Ukraine will take 100 years just to pay the interest on that loan, and they're not going to. They're warning, their own bank is telling Europe not to loan Ukraine any more money, that they will have no intention to repay any of these loans. British intelligence knows this. All of them. You can look up for yourself. You'll find all the rumours, even speeches by Zelensky saying it's standard Ukrainian practice to borrow money and not repay them. That started the whole dispute with Ukraine and Russia in the first place, is Ukraine never repaying its bills. Europe just doesn't want to accept this, that they're exhausting their economy on behalf of Ukraine. And all Russia wanted was a bloody election. So much for democracy, eh? So much for the defenders of democracy. Don't want to hold an election in Donbass. Don't want the people to have a say. And you had 6 weeks to do it. You could have got, if you start, I reckon, this is why the internet is so full of moderators right now, and scolds always saying Putin bot, whatever. They're trying to make you afraid of watching the truth. Because whether or not Putin's a good guy or not is irrelevant. That's like asking a Democrat if Trump is of course they're going to say Trump is a serial liar. He's a Putin bot. Well, then you're just arrogant and ignorant. You're deliberately closing off yourself from information, which you have to assess on its own. Because one of the most powerful tools of propaganda on any, whether it be World War I all the way through, was the truth. How did Vietnam beat America in Southeast Asia? They turned the people against America with the truth. Whatever Nixon's intentions were, he was blindsided, and LBJ came to him and says, they're going to lie to you. The Pentagon's going to lie to you about the state of the war. The CIA's going to lie to you about the state of the war. The South Vietnamese government is going to lie to you. It's pretty obvious, right? Everyone wants to lie to you about Ukraine. And they're going to tell you 20 years down the track, ha, 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 we lied to you. It was the CIA all along. It's over and over the same song and dance. And then they're going to, you're going to have the Iraqi general come out, and remind you all that he gladly lied to get you into the Iraq war. It was all worth it. Yes, says the guy who's paid $10 million. Of course he'll say it was worth it. So thank you all for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Please support the channel. You can support me on Ko-Fi, Patreon, buy my books, buy merch. I appreciate each and every one of you. See you in the next video, and bye for now.